Hello, Daphne here with another video for you. This one's titled The St. James Hotel and Club in London, England, and, quote, Mr. Nolte, may I take your bags to your room now, unquote. I'll get to the story about Mr. Nolte a little bit later in this video. But first of all, I want to give a recommendation to this incredibly special hotel right smack in the middle of London. It's only got 56 rooms, and each one is so well appointed, so comfortable, and I just love it. I love this hotel, and so does my husband. We have stayed here for years. The staff is so accommodating and so nice. And believe it or not, the beds are some of the most comfortable ones we have ever slept on anywhere overseas. And that always is good for a great night's rest before another day of adventure in England. So anyway, we stayed at the St. James many, many times over the years, and every visit we look forward to. And I noticed that it was established in 1857. Well, I can't imagine what it looked like then, but it sure is a beauty now. And would you believe that this small hotel with only like 4 or 5 floors has a restaurant in it with a Michelin star and has had that star for 10 years. Now that is amazing for such a small boutique hotel, don't you think? Well, I do, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, my husband and I have thoroughly enjoyed all the meals that we have had here. We also love the rooms. Now, mind you, the rooms are not huge like some luxury hotels, but they are so well appointed that it makes up for the size. We just love the comfort, every creature comfort they have put into these rooms, which makes the stay just that much more special. Another place we love, it has a very, very nice bar with comfortable stools, and every afternoon they have high tea, a long, long ago and continuing British tradition, and we enjoy it. Means we have to have a late dinner because after all those good pastries, we're pretty full. But it's a special treat that we only partake in when we're in London. So now I come to the story about Mr. Nolte. We check into the St. James here at their front desk. My husband gives them our credit card. We're all set. We turn around and the bellman is standing right there. And he says to my husband, Mr. Nolte, may I take your bags to the room now? My husband says, well, I'm not Nick Nolte, but thank you very much. We'd love to have you take the bags to our room. Now, I cannot tell you how many times all over the world people have come up to my husband and said, are you Nick Nolte? There was even a time on a flight where my husband was on his way to Jackson Hole. He was alone on that trip. And a woman came up from the back of the plane, plopped down in the seat next to him and said, are you Nick Nolte? And my husband said, no, I'm not. She said, oh, yes, you are. He said, no, I'm not. And this went on for a few minutes, but she finally got up and left without thinking twice that she had not met Nick Nolte, because she knew that she had. That was amusing. We were in Lima, Peru one time at a very fancy club, and this was just unbelievable. This hat check girl, where we had left our coats, said, Nick, and got this big excited expression on her face. Oh my goodness, we didn't know how to tell her that this was indeed not Nick Nolte, but anyway, I guess she got a thrill out of it. On another occasion, my husband was with some friends at the Super Bowl. He was walking into the stadium when all of a sudden these 4 girls surrounded him and said, Nick, we have to have a picture with you. Before my husband could deny his identity, a companion of theirs snapped a picture of the 4 of them with my husband. I tell you, they went off happy as clams, not having a clue who this so-called celebrity was. Anyway, I always stand by in these situations and am endlessly amused by all the people who take my husband for Nick Nolte. I mean, it's happened in restaurants, it's happened at sporting events, it's happened walking down the street. It's happened many, many times. But people also mention the fact that you don't look like the Nick Nolte in the mugshot. But it is endlessly amusing to me, and I am having a great time here sharing this story with you. So that's the story about, oh, I have one more story I almost forgot. We were in Yellowstone at the Snow Lodge one January, and it was just, it's a beautiful time of the year to go to Yellowstone because there are no crowds. You can only get around by a vehicle known as a bombardier. It's got wheels that just have a band that goes around and takes you across the snow effortlessly. Anyway, one night we went out on a tour that they titled Moonlight, Geysers, and Steam, I think it was called, something like that. And in the bombardier were our 2 friends who were at the lodge with us, and another couple that we did not know. So we went on this tour, which was just absolutely beautiful, going around in the moonlight around Yellowstone with absolutely no one there. It was just magical. So we had our wonderful experience, and we returned to the hotel. And the husband of the woman that we didn't know in the vehicle came up to my husband and said, would you mind if my wife took a picture with you? And he said, no, I wouldn't mind, but I'm curious, why would she want a picture taken with me? And he said these words when we all burst out laughing. He said, because Nick Nolte is the only man on planet Earth that my wife would leave me for. So that was quite something. My husband had his picture taken with her, and she went off very happy that evening, even though she knew that he was not Nick Nolte. Just having a picture of a look-alike satisfied her no end. And then when we were leaving the park a couple of days later, our friends were in a different bombardier than we were, and the driver of that vehicle announced that Nick Nolte was in the park. Well, our friends had to inform them that Nick Nolte was not indeed in the park, but a friend of theirs, and he lived in Jackson in the winter and Florida Jackson in the summer and partly in the winter, and Florida at the other times of the year. So that is my story about Nick Nolte and the St. James Boutique Hotel, which I just recommend highly. And my husband and I, are we ever fortunate, because we are planning another trip to London. Our 2 granddaughters have always wanted to go to London and Paris, but with all the restrictions with COVID, we have not been able to plan a trip. So we decided, well, let's plan it way ahead of time. So the 4 of us, my husband, myself, and our 2 granddaughters, will be off to London for Christmas 2022, when again we will have the great pleasure of being in one of our most favorite hotels anywhere in the world, located on that dead-end street in the middle of a big and bustling town, I should say city, where there are so many interesting things we'll be doing with our granddaughters. More than a year from now, but my husband and I always look forward to our visits to London when we stay at the St. James Hotel and Club. And if you ever get a chance to be in London, maybe you'll check it out too and duplicate the wonderful times that we've enjoyed there. So, good luck to everybody on their next trip. And remember, the only trip you'll regret is the one you don't take.